the dwarven merchant that had hired you had been talking your ear off the entire trip about all of the stories of his family, and he was just wrapping up one of these exact stories when the hill crests, and you see the town of Greennest laid out before you. But smoke is rising from the buildings and haystacks. Clouds have gathered above, but just above the town, lightning crashes. An ominous shape can be seen deep in the clouds. Yeah, if you haven't realized, we're probably running Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Well, before anybody decides to give me all kinds of hassles about the fact that we're running Hoard of the Dragon Queen, yes, I know it's one of the very first ones they wrote, and there's a lot to change in it, but I figured I would start at the beginning when it came to running a D&D campaign. So I'm going to, now that you had a little bit of introduction, we're going to back this train all the way up. So again, hey guys, I'm Haven the Hare, and welcome to kind of session 0 of our campaign diaries. I'm going to talk about the fact that we are getting started with this. We've actually had our first session, but I had other stuff happen, so I wasn't able to do this video as fast as I wanted to. I'm going to try and keep up with it as from here on out, and at least keep you guys updated since I've been asked. And I've been told numerous times that I have some good creative ideas. So I'm hoping to share some of them with you, maybe give you guys some good ideas on what you guys can do. So yeah, Hoard of the Dragon Queen, we're running that. Background. So I have been playing D&D for as long as I can remember. I grew up playing D&D with my folks. I used to play D&D with my parents, with my brothers. I at one point had an assignment for school where I ran an entire class with a co-DM through a dungeon we created in Egypt as a class assignment, where we had we both had 2 presentations, and we both used our days to run them through this campaign. It was all kinds of fun, and we got great grades on it. But so, to give you an idea, that was middle school. I've been playing D&D as far back as I can remember. Part of that's because my parents have actually been playing D&D back as far as I can remember. So there's kind of my background. I was that toddler or that little tiny child being held by somebody at the table while the DM told, what was going on, and I was let to roll the dice. So I've been doing this a little while. However, as funny as that sounds, so over 30 years of playing D&D and DMing myself from a lot of that, I have never ran a canned or pre-made setting or campaign setting or campaign. It's always been freeform. It's always been homebrew stuff. It's always been designing the campaigns around the characters, or at least coming up with a skeleton of the campaign, and then taking the characters and putting them inside of it, and then wrapping that campaign around the characters to draw them in with their backstories and their backgrounds and everything. And that's how I was taught that you DM'd. But throughout my whole life, there's been this entire canon, this entire background of D&D that everybody else knew that I didn't. I mean, I knew of them. I mean, I knew of the Forgotten Realms and of the Sword Coast. And I mean, gosh, you can't walk into a game shop without hearing somebody complain about Drizzt. So I knew of it, but I've never played it. I've never delved into it. I never read the books. If I did look into the books, I looked into the books long enough to get some great campaign ideas or to grab something from it, a magical item, a background, or something like that. So there you go. I figured if I was going to put in a campaign, I would start at the beginning and run one that had dragons, because that is, I guess, also the other complaint is the fact that we play Dungeons and Dragons or Dragons now. Thanks, guys. So I like dragons. I wanted to play a game with dragons, so I chose for my first campaign, canned setting, Sword Coast, Forgotten Realms. I would do Hoard of the Dragon Queen. And then I found out that it was one of the first ones written for 5e and had a bunch of problems. So, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm a decent DM. I feel like I'm very creative. I can help create things and build things and change things as needed. So I'm not too worried about it when I jumped into this. So I've read the campaign book, numerous times at this point, gone over it, kind of figured out how I wanted to do things. There's another campaign I'm running right now that's on hiatus due to one of my players being in Scotland. And as much as technology has caught up, I haven't bought the right stuff to be able to bring somebody in from Scotland on a regular basis to play with us. So we've canned that one. So I will be talking about the campaign of the Wandering Few at some point. We've gotten through the first chapter of that one. So if you have any questions about that, that is one of the ones where I built it, like the way I know how to DM. Also, so this is my first, I just got back into 5e. So I've been playing 3.5 and 2 for most of my life. Took a hiatus due to life, had kids, that kind of fun stuff. but my youngest daughter, she's the one who sat down and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to learn how to play D&D," and I went on it. But I figured if we're both going to learn to do D&D, we might as well start with what everybody else is playing at this moment, or at least that I felt like that. And so I went and got all the books for 5e and learned 5th edition. And I love it. Actually, coming from somebody who's been playing D&D, I have books that go all the way back. I've got my Fiends Folio, that, and I have, my Deities and Demigods book that still has Cthulhu in it, to give you an idea how far back the books I have. So, but I wanted to play what everybody else was playing, I felt. I still, lots of people I know, everybody, don't blow up my doodly-doo on saying that everybody still plays 3.5. Great. Good for you. Keep playing it. Have fun. Do what you do. But what I read, everything was going to be that 5e was great for introducing people, and I felt it would be a good way to take a 13-year-old and introduce her to D&D, to what I loved. So we started up the campaign, The Wandering Few, which again, I'll talk about that again later. But I wanted to give you that. There's the background of why I'm doing this, why I chose Hoard of the Dragon Queen, and eventually the Rise of Tiamat, the whole Tyranny of Dragons thing. But also like where I came from. So I'm always open for new ideas too. So like if you have great ideas, although I wouldn't share them down here, I would shoot them in my email to haventhehare@gmail.com, because my players are probably going to watch this, and so if you want to give me like hints and tips, don't put it in the comments, because they're going to read this and then they'll know. So, oh yeah. So where do you start off? We decided on Hoard of the Dragon Queen, or at least I did. And I said, hey, we're going to run Hoard of the Dragon Queen. And I put I created a form in Google, and I sent it out to a bunch of my friends on social media. And I said, hey guys, anybody interested in playing? We got a bunch of people coming in. At that point, unfortunately, I said yes to a lot of people. And so right now my party sits at 6, with a possible 7th and 8th, because I'm a glutton for punishment. I had to go buy a second table, so we had enough space for everybody. But I figured I'd start off with actually going over the characters, because that's what, if you know Hoard of the Dragon Queen, you know the background. I mean, I really probably don't need to go over it too much. So I'm just going to kind of talk about how I changed things and what I'm doing and how we did things and what the players did, because that's really what you're here for. But, so really what you want to know is the players are, right? The cast of characters, shall we say. So, without further ado. Now I'm going to try and stick to just the character names. If I need to tell you the player, it's going to be by the first name only, to protect the not so innocent. You know who I'm looking at and talking about. But to start, and this is in absolutely no order whatsoever. Oh, and yeah, I decided since we're doing this on D&D Beyond. I love D&D Beyond, by the way. I will be their poster child at this point, because while I love Dungeons & Dragons and I'm a very creative person, what I suck at is math and remembering to add everything up. So the fact that D&D Beyond does all that for you, and you just have to go roll the d20 and then add your +9 to your, persuasion or whatever. Love it! So that's me. Sorry. Let me just off on a tangent there. So, my apologies. All right, so anyway, cast of characters. Start, we have Arkin. Arkin is an Hasmir cleric of the Tempest Dominion. Oh, I'm sorry, back that up. I'm having them all start at level 3. I get why everybody starts off at level 1 usually, and I know this campaign's supposed to have you start off at level 1, but that's the one thing actually that if I could change about D&D is that you don't get your cool abilities until 3. Almost everybody doesn't get your cool stuff until 3. And while I understand, like, most of the time that's because you're letting the character, like the players, learn the character, it's almost like they're all the exact same at levels 1 and 2, kind of. So 3 is where the cool abilities really start to kick in. A bunch of my players made a pitch, basically, that we all started, level 3. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start level 3. I told them that that's fine. We're going to use EXP. We're not going to do milestone, because that's what I'm used to. I'm good at. Eventually, we'll do milestone at some point, probably. But do XP. That's fine. They start level 3. It means it's going to be a little bit easier in the beginning, but they're not going to level for a while. I told them that. You basically have wasted your first couple of cool, I leveled ups by starting off at level 3. I did scale the first encounters up because of that. And we can get into that in a minute, and when we get into the actual first session. So, level 3, just so you guys know. Just sorry. That's why, as I'm going to go through this, people are going to look at me and go, "Oh, how does she already have a domain if she's only level 1?" Well, that's because we started level 3. So anyway, all right, back up. Arkin A level 3 Hajmir Cleric of the Tempest Dominion. I'm not really going to go into the backgrounds until they come up. How's that? I think maybe we should. You know what? How's this? We're going to do this in doobly-doo. If you guys want to have me go further into the characters, let me know. In the comments, send me messages, however you want to contact me, road flares. Let me know if you want to hear more about the backgrounds of each individual character. If you do, I will actually then have the players come in and do their own introduction with their own backstory and how much they're willing to share. Because I know that, part of this is everybody kind of exploring their backstories. So, all right. Round 3 of introductions. Arkin, level 3 Hajmir, Cleric of the Tempest Dominion. Another, we have Lu Tao, a level 3 human. Why am I saying level 3? They're all level 3 guys. Anyway, we have Lu Tao, human monk, way of the 4 elements. There is Nalhias, a half-orc barbarian with a Celtic origin. We have Remy, the half-elf rogue scout. We have Rosalinda, the dwarf druid, circle of the land, specifically the mountain. And last, the person who actually had us all start this, I give you Melanie, the gnome ranger beastmaster, accompanied by her dire raccoon. I love kids. And I say Melanie's the reason we start this because Melanie was the very first character that my daughter created, and we didn't really get a chance to really play her too much before we brought up the Wandering Few, and she wanted to do a different character. So she brought this character back into this campaign, where she's actually now getting a chance to really fully flesh it out. So yeah, a gnome ranger with a dire raccoon as a beast companion that she rides. It's as tall as a horse. If you want to know more about that, we actually came up with a huge, great background for Melanie and Walnut, the dire raccoon, which is great. I love it, and it was with her help. With the help of my 13-year-old daughter, we created that character and that whole background of gnomes who raise dire animals. It's awesome, but I'll let her tell you guys more about it. Everybody's been introduced. The way that I had them all come in was told them all that they would have all been hired by a merchant to guard them, to help guard the caravan, since that's a big thing in this campaign setting. So they're guards on a merchant caravan on its way to Greennest. So I had them share what they would have had shared with each other. Very little background was actually shared. More personality traits were kind of shared. We found that Lu Tao is kind of your laid-back kind of monk, gonna go with the flow. The half-orc has some terrifying night terrors, which a half-orc barbarian with night terrors is kind of scary in itself. Heard about the dire the gnomes that create dire animals and the creation of this dire raccoon. Let's see. Heard that Remy is on the run. She doesn't talk about her past too much. She has mentioned, though, that she has some serious father issues and really hates her father at this point. And Rosalind is on the look for her father. Her father went missing, and she found some letters that led her towards this direction. She's let that know because she actually is looking, so she's been going around asking people for direction. Arkin is kept very quiet, actually. She has not let anybody else into knowing what's going on. Point of order. If you haven't realized exactly what's going on here, I have found myself in a strange position of actually having the majority of the players at my table be female. I am not complaining about this in the least, but it is a lot different than what I remember running games for 20-something guys in college. They're not murder hobos. Although, my daughter has, the other campaign I've run with my daughter does have a weird thing with one young lady collecting eyeballs, but we'll get into that later. Anyway, so there you go. There's our cast of characters. We're playing, again, Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Oh, I will say this much. So, I love tactical kind of combat. I played sweatshop games for years until I just couldn't afford it anymore, i.e. I got a mortgage and had to pay rent. So I love that tactical combat thing, so I really wanted to kind of have Greennest for their first encounter, the first time that everybody showed up. I wanted to have that be kind of cool. So one of the things I went and did is I went through RPG drive-through, and downloaded some printable buildings and such. So we were able to get the printable buildings out, and that's just a little shack. so we were able to do like printable buildings. I'll talk about these more when we actually talk about the very first one, because I got some pictures of them. I'll put the link in the doobly-doo. I love these. It was another great little project for my daughter and I to do while we built the town of Greennest, and I'll throw up some of the pictures from that first campaign night that we did that. It was an awesome time. So there you go, session 0. Again, Haven the Hare. If you guys have any questions about our campaign or about the characters, again, if you want to hear more about the characters, I'd be happy to do introductions and talk about their own characters and give what little background they're willing to share at this moment. Because I know some of them are hiding a lot of it for future reveals, like we all do. But if you want to hear more from the characters themselves, make comments, shoot me emails. If you have any questions about how we're running and how we're going to do things, feel free to, again, make comments. I will put links down below to anything else that I feel is relevant, and thanks for watching.